In dealing with economic problems such as inflation and unemployment, the federal government has a number of policy tools at its disposal. The two most important are fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fiscal policy uses increased government expenditures or, alternatively, tax cuts to stimulate or expand the economy. Fiscal policy can also be used to contract the economy and fight inflation by reducing government expenditures. Fiscal policy uses increased government expenditures or, alternatively, tax cuts to stimulate or expand the economy. Fiscal policy can also be used to contract the economy and fight inflation by reducing government expenditures or raising taxes. Monetary policy, on the other hand, uses control over the money supply to achieve similar goals, and both monetary and fiscal policy are often used in conjunction with one another. Properly practiced macroeconomic policies can help create a climate of prosperity and growth. However, improperly applied, macroeconomic policies can inflict the greatest of miseries and harm. In the remainder of this first lesson, we will demonstrate this point by briefly outlining the historical evolution of macroeconomic thinking. In doing so, we'll show how, over time, new theories like Keynesianism, monetarism, and supply-side economics have emerged to try and cope with problems that the previous theories couldn't solve. Ultimately, it is only after we come to understand how macroeconomics has evolved and how it keeps evolving over time that we will come to realize how important and relevant this subject is to everything we do. Before beginning our macroeconomic history, however, let's become acquainted with one of the most important tools in macroeconomics: aggregate supply, aggregate demand analysis. The ASAD model has its roots in classical economics and is represented in this figure. The vertical axis measures the general price level for all goods and services, and the horizontal axis measures the level of real GDP. The curve labeled AS represents the economy's aggregate supply, or how much output the economy will produce at different price levels. Note that it slopes upwards, meaning that the higher the price level, the more that businesses will produce. The downward sloping AD curve is the aggregate demand curve. It represents what everyone in the economy, consumers, businesses, foreigners, and government, would buy at different aggregate price levels. Its downward slope means that as the general price level falls, consumers and businesses will increase their demand for goods and services. Where the AS and AD curves cross at point E, we have a macroeconomic equilibrium. A macroeconomic equilibrium is a combination of overall price and quantity at which neither buyers nor sellers wish to change their purchases, sales, or prices. For example, at a price level of P equals 200, the economy is out of equilibrium. Why do you think this would be? The economy is out of equilibrium because businesses want to sell quantity C, but purchasers only want to buy quantity B. At this price, goods will pile up on the shelves, and eventually firms will have to cut production and prices. This drives the economy back to equilibrium at point E. Now, let's use this aggregate supply, aggregate demand model to interpret some important events in macroeconomic history.